Yeah, thanks for coming out, everyone. I really appreciate it. So I did want to stress something about the point structure because I always get questions about that. Remember, there's a lot of extra points in this class. It probably goes even above 15, but there'll be at least 15. So that's a good amount. I think it's fair because these classes move so fast. People forget a discussion board, people forget to take the quiz, etc. Sometimes I'll make a mistake on the quiz or something, like it's not worded well, so you don't lose the point, but you might lose the point, but then you get it back in the extra credit. So first, any questions or comments before we begin? I have it's a lot. It's like, I think it's like 30 points almost. Why do I make it long at the beginning? Like some people might say, oh, it's a lot of points. It's kind of give people the chance to bounce back. These classes kind of go by fast. So that I see this 28 points. There'll probably be 29 after this because it does open tomorrow, but it's open for a while. So don't stress and you'll have a good understanding. Any questions before we begin? Nothing? 100 for everyone. Tiffany? No?
I have actual questions, but not before we start.
No, we're starting now. I recorded it.
Oh, okay.
This
Well,
is
then I would
specifically to the final. Yeah, final
yes.
exam.
Okay, so on the keyword list, I'm still working my way through the current assignments that are due. So when I see on here about hypothesis testing, I just barely started watching the lecture. So can you kind of talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to start with too, because the word, and this is a good chance for the last quiz to watch this first before the last quiz as well. I just throw on there ice cream. That whole video of regression analysis is an easy way to start understanding, if you watch the video, what regression tries to do. So you have an independent variable, which is actually the question, right? Say temperature. Does the increase of temperature, price, or income, those are all independent variables, increase or decrease the amount of ice cream? So you might do it individually, like, okay, temperature, the rise of temperature does increase the ice cream consumption. Why is that important? Well, that's important because if you have an ice cream shop, you have to know if temperature rises, you have to buy more ice cream. You have to, essentially have more workers. But what's interesting for this life right now, and I want to stress this, which will be on the final, is that notice price. So what they want to know, and this could be oil, this could be anything, if we begin to rise the price too much, does it significantly decrease the consumption of a product? So in this case, it decreases price, but not at a quote unquote statistically significant level. But it's still practical because if you begin to increase it too much, people stop consuming ice cream. Studies suggest that this is kind of important in our new inflationary world because people have realized what they call in economics, well, they don't use this word, but I'll just say it, false inflation, is that, well, if people are paying more for gas, they'll pay more for food, they'll pay more for Chili's or McDonald's, etc. So I'm not saying all inflation is fake, but there is some fake inflation out there where they start saying, well, if people are inclined to pay this much for something, they'll be more inclined to pay, say, for peanut butter. So let's raise our peanut butter prices. What they do with the profits is up to them. But then they realize after a while with these price hikes, and it's the same logic with interest, is the fact that raising prices will decrease consumption. The question is where. So a hypothesis would be, does increasing the price of ice cream significantly reduce the consumption of ice cream? But that could be anything. So that's important now in our inflationary world. How much? And it seemed like after COVID, this is my opinion, do not agree with me. After COVID, people were spending happy and they really wanted to get out and spend. And inflation started kind of taking off to like unprecedented levels. So that's what an hypothesis is. It's just a question, seeing if there's a relationship between these two variables. So the ice cream, I don't think I asked hypothesis per se, like the exact question what is a hypothesis, but you do have to know kind of what, oh, I do hypothesis testing helps push research forward. That is more the question on the exact final is more towards Secret of the Tribes, where they were asking, why these indigenous people are going to war. And they first came up with does anyone remember the answers they gave in Secrets of the Tribe?
Fighting
was,
of women.
Go ahead, Tiffany, since you asked about.
Oh, well, one of them was about the protein and the meat, and the other one was about women.
Right, exactly. So they first come with women, and then after they came with the idea of, no, it's not because of that, it's meat. That's what you call an alternative hypothesis. Good thinking. Was that scary for everyone because that's going to be on it, how it's both positivist, cause and effect, hypothesis testing, a good question. Why do these indigenous people go to war? That's real research, but it's also interpretive methods because they try to socially construct the Yanomami people as very, what did Sting say? Sting's kind of weird anyways, but Sting said, oh, these people can last forever, all this stuff in a very positive life. And then the Mormon Tabernacle Choir was, singing to their, greatness and all this stuff, where Shagnon was saying, no, these people are the fierce people. So you have like kind of interpretive methods. And this is a good segue into differentiating. Positivist cause and effect methods are usually more qualitative, quantitative, whereas interpretive methods investigates propaganda, how we perpetuate and legitimize things. I did send out an interesting battle of narratives on Amanda Knox in Italy, if some of you remember that. That was a while back. The same thing goes with Rittenhouse. That'll be on there. The use of discourse, how the judge didn't allow the people to be called victims. That matters in these court cases, as well as O.J. Simpson changing his house around. That's more interpretive methods. It has to do more with meaning, how we perpetuate and legitimize things. Ooh, good beginning, though. So I might as well jump into the stats. The stats is pure positivist. That's statistics. So when you look at the lecture on Trump's tweets, what we're trying to do there is just figure out, does retweeting a tweet lead to more favorited tweets? And it did. That data set is massive. So if you haven't watched that, watch it. That's what it's all about. The independent variable is retweeting tweets. And then the dependent variable, the result is whether it's favorited or not. So if you're going to run an election, retweeting tweets is definitely good for favoriting tweets. They call them something different now, I think. Maybe you people know. That's more what we call large number data. So if you watch that lecture, the one on the Trump tweets, there's like 21,000 or something like that, like crazy amount of pieces of data of Trump's tweets. So I don't know if you had the chance to watch that. That's a big question. The same with Titanic. If you get a chance to watch that video, it's essentially, does the gender lead to whether one would survive or not survive? And gender does prove to be significant, meaning you are more likely to die if you were what? Did anyone watch that one yet? Jessica should know. She already took the class and she saw that.
Should I say it though?
Yeah.
Well, if my memory is not failing, oh, professor, you put me in a bad spot. I say if you're a woman.
You're what? More likely what?
To die.
No, a man is more likely to die.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's the opposite. Women is more likely to survive than men.
That's the goal of quantitative research. And then we also did class, you might see, and then if you're poorer, what a surprise, you're more likely to die. That's the value of what they call large N data. I really want to stick it in the class because it's become all the rage, right? Culling these large amount of data points. And then at the end of the Trump tweets, I show how it can be used with artificial intelligence. Like you find the most favorited tweets, and then you put that in kind of one of those things, like anytime someone Googles Trump, that comes up because that's the most popular. So let's say standing up to China is his most favorited tweet. then that comes up in the artificial intelligence. But for now, you just really need to know, what's an independent, dependent variable applied to these cases? What's the goal? So the goal of ice cream, does price, the income of the people at temperature lead to increases or decreases of the consumption of ice cream? Does retweeting a tweet lead to favoriting the tweet? And in the case, it does. So those are what we call large N studies. That was much different from the small N study, just so you know, when I did that little lecture on the Peruvian president, Pedro, now his name slips my mind, where it's interesting because that was just a case study like some of you will do. So when we start looking at the exam, there are some of those case studies like, what was the point of the lecture on qualitative methods? Well, the point was why did the Peruvian president get disposed so quickly, whereas other presidents like Fujimori were able to survive? And that's very, very interesting question. And that's what qualitative positivist methods are. You can call process tracing, where we look at specific cases and look at the factors that lead to a specific result. That's what I call it mainstream qualitative methods, but more positivist cause and effect methods. So, and you saw the same thing, like I just said, the hunting ground, Secrets of the Tribe, where you asked a question, why are these people going to war? Very qualitatively oriented in that case, since they're only looking at the different cases of war for a particular group. Whew, that was a lot. Now there's a lot more on here. What questions do you people have? So we got the Secrets of the Tribe, both positivist and interpretive methods. What other questions did you have? And we got to Kyle Rittenhouse is definitely on there. That was discourse analysis, Trump tweets, ice cream, all of those large N data sets is looking to see cause and effect with large N studies. What other questions do you have? Oh, Titanic as well.
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so I understand the political ads. I mean, the difference between the two, but what exactly are you going to be, I guess, asking about those?
Yeah, that is a great question, since it does come up. Now, first, I'll do this. You do have to understand what are experiment and control groups. Experiment and control groups, as laid out in the lectures, the experiment group kind of gets this independent variable and the control group doesn't. So you look at like COVID, some people will get the vaccination, others not, to see if it reduces the likelihood that someone contracts COVID. In the case of the commercial, what's important there, they can be set up like experiment and control groups, right? So you ask yourself, hey, people don't like, say, Donald Trump. Let's show this commercial to see if it makes people like him more. So that would be the ad itself. The political ad is the independent variable, the causal variable, to see if the decrease or increase of liking of a candidate. So that's what positivism is. That's what these cause and effect is. But there's also a certain kind of, let's just say, interpretive method, where when you look at the Paul Wellstone commercial, he refuses to say he's a professor. Instead, he says he's a teacher. Why? Because professor has a negative connotation and teacher has a better one. Professor, oh, you're so snobby, liberal, etc. Ivy Tower. So that's very, very important to understand, that even though we use the commercials in a more positivist effect with control and experiment groups, at the same time, these have, excuse me, more interpretive ways. So what would be interpretive? I literally asked the question, right? Paul Wellstone, how is it interpretive? Well, it's interpretive because it's discourse. He refuses to say he's a professor. He says he's a teacher, which is a lie. He's a professor, but he's not going to use that word because it's bad. Same thing with Martha McSally. You don't have to agree with my analysis. You just have to know how it's applied, that the war is no longer popular. So by that commercial, I think you do not have to agree with me. I could care less who you vote for. if that was like maybe 10 years ago, that commercial with Martha McSally, the one where she's like showing how she was the first woman in combat on a plane or whatever. I mean, not first, but if you see the commercial, if you watch the whole thing, you'll get it. It's very, very important, right? Because it's good, patriotism and all that stuff, but the war is not very popular, in my opinion. That's part of interpretive methods where you say, what's the meaning behind that? You know, what's the meaning behind these commercials? What is perpetuated and legitimized? And, you know, war hawkish commercials probably, you know, didn't do well. And even when Trump ran the first time, 2016, I don't know if you people were born then, but he even said to Jeb Bush, you know, I don't feel safer. He was very anti-war candidate. So it's kind of interesting how that took even in the Republican primary was a very strong thing. Excellent questions. So same thing goes with campaigning and politics, attaching weak to Mike Dukakis. If you watch Lee Atwater, I noticed you people were talking about that before. That's all interpretive methods. You know, Mike Dukakis is just a person. It's not until you start attaching these negative connotations to him. And this is an exciting time because you start looking at some of the newer commercials coming out, like, you know, Biden's commercials against Trump, attaching him to January 6th, insurrection, etc. And then the Trump people are doing some pretty good commercials on Biden. I think they call it the Biden, there's one where they make the White House into an old age house and stuff. I mean, it's pretty clever. So, but that's what these people are doing. It's like Torches of Freedom. That will be on the Edward Bernays. So Edward Bernays figured out by attaching positive connotations to smoking, women would then smoke. So it's not really quantitative, or it's kind of like how things get perpetuated and legitimized with meaning. So that's what's important about those. Oof. I don't want to talk too long. What other questions do we have?
I have 2 questions.
Good.
So the first question is about the Arab Spring. Like I'm going still through, you know, the modules. I'm not sure if I still gonna get to the video.
Wait, did you say Arab Spring?
Yeah, so I want to know what you're gonna ask specifically about the Arab
Yeah.
Spring.
The Arab Spring is all quantitative. If you notice, Bar Yam comes out and starts talking about, I'm going to figure out why there's the Arab Spring. And it's a quantitative analysis of the Arab Spring. So it's like the opposite of what we did with the Syrian crisis, where the Syrian crisis was more qualitative, just why did Bashar al-Assad stay in power. This guy's looking at quote unquote large N studies. So the Arab Spring is large N quantitative research, meaning a large number, like I did with the Titanic, the ice cream, and of course Trump's tweets, which are over 20,000 points, which is crazy. But yeah, so that's what that is. That's all you have to know. But you can watch it. It's a really good 2-minute thing. It really captures what the goal of quantitative methods.
I certainly do. I love watching your lectures, Professor.
Thanks.
The second question is about linear regression. Can you explain a little bit further?
Yeah, regression, and the question is on there related to ice cream. It's just, you know, regression analysis is looking for at its basic form, relationship between variables. That's it. So in ice cream, does raising the price of ice cream lead to, right, a decrease in consumption of ice cream? So there, the independent variables, causal variables, are income of the people. I don't know how they get that data, but the more important ones are still price and temperature. And that can be anything, like I said, price of anything, peanut butter, oil, I don't know, football shirts, stuff like that. They do a lot of research on that stuff. Good question. What else? What else?
Grounded theory.
I didn't end up putting grounded theory on there, so don't even worry about it. But that's like going in without knowing any kind of theory or method, etc. But that was applied to Secrets of the Tribe. What's important for Secrets of the Tribe is, you know, like how the Tabernacle Choir and Sting tried to kind of perpetuate and legitimize the Yamamoto
remember
people
that.
as that's on there. Quiet Rage is on there. That's all cause and effect with human behavior. The independent variable, right, is the roles of the people. It's pretty interesting. So you say like, what is going to cause them to say break down or whatever? And that's basically the role. Whether you're a prisoner or a guard, does it change your behavior? The dependent variable would be behavior. But it's an interesting study that those kids broke down. I mean, is it unethical? We'll get into that at another time. I was showing you unethical things. If you watched all Secrets of the Tribe, you saw that guy marry someone who was like 13. And then you saw
12.
the other one, 12. God, I can't even watch it. I just stop it. It's terrible stuff, but it's important to talk about because it's like, what are people doing in the field? And I'm supposed to be going to the field soon, so it's true. It's like it's people, you have to. That's why we have the International Review Board now, that you have to like make sure you're not going to hurt people, which is good. What else?
I have another question.
Good, Christina.
I was just starting to watch the videos on the statistics and law, but what exactly are we supposed to know for the test?
Awesome. For that, it's specific like cases. The one on let me see here. I did want to mention before I get into statistics and law, a lot of his interpretive methods in law. Kyle Rittenhouse does discourse analysis and the case, the lawyers not being able to say victims, but they could say arsons for the other. That was an interesting case. The other thing is OJ's house is more interpretive methods. In that specific video, the one I asked mostly is the Titanic data set, how the independent variable is both class and gender. That's what you'll have to know in that specific lecture for statistics and law. It does, I don't ask it, but get into other things like, let's say, for example, if in case you do go to study law, you have a client and she says, I'm not making enough money and it's because I'm a woman. You could literally run a large N data on that to see if there is a statistical relationship between salary and gender. In this case, the Titanic, which I talk about in that video, is class and gender are the two variables. Good question. What else? Remember, political ads are independent variables when it comes to the more experimental and control groups in that. Yeah, so that we covered a lot there, actually, more than I thought. So you understand regression analysis. Oh, another thing, the lectures of Kissing Statue and Pancho Villa. I enjoyed reading those. Those are definitely on there. Do we get rid of the statue or not? We'll leave that for another time. Those were interesting comments. Most people say put it in a museum, but that is a museum, so they want to leave it. But the guy's grabbing her. And Pancho Villa, the United States said he was a bandit, and according to this, he's a hero, and that was a very good burrito. So if you ever get a video, that's definitely on there. That's interpretive methods. Regression analysis, great question. All we're doing is finding the relationship between variables, so that'll be on there. Arab Spring, quantitative research. We went over Secrets of the Tribe. Remember, Secrets of the Tribe, in addition to that hypothesis testing that you asked previously, Secrets of the Tribe is based on what methodology of immersion? What do you?
Ethnography.
Right. So you got to remember that. Then for I do a bit on the Secrets of the Tribe. Don't forget the Secrets of the Tribe, both meat and women, as you answered. So that was a good one. That was the more hypothesis testing of that. Ethnography, remember, immersion, experiment and control groups. Experiment gets the independent variable. The control groups gets nothing, maybe a placebo. Marjorie Taylor Greene, the dependent variable was hair color. I have to do my hair. Or she won't love me. So that's important because they literally do studies like that, on different products and stuff like that. Yeah. Oh, the OJ Simpson is definitely on there. I love that. And them change. Did you like that one? You know, if you're a lawyer, how many people want to study law? Usually a lot of people want to study law. Controlling the narrative in all those things is so amazing. How they actually went in and changed some stuff in OJ's house. And then the jury went in and they weren't allowed to talk about anything, touch anything. That was a very interesting for me idea of interpretive methods and law. Yeah, so that's quiet rage, cause and effect. We talked about that. Independent variable, role dependent. Wedge issues. Does anyone remember what wedge issues are? I wanted to put those, what wedge issues they had in there, because, oh, go ahead, Matt.
Were you just going to ask what a wedge issue is in general, or did you
I
ask
was going to
which
ask
ones
I
were
get
in-
a list of specific ones and they all are, so you'll know the
or
answer.
were you specifically talking about which ones were included in one of the documentaries?
Yeah, in the documentary, remember a couple of them?
For the Lee Atwater one, I remember there was the Willie Horton issue, the prison reform that
Right.
Mike Dukakis had been, proponent of a strategy of prison reform, letting prisoners out for kind of limited periods that
Death
had been
penalty.
pioneered by Ronald Reagan, but then they conveniently left that out. And they used that to label him as weak and, coddling criminals.
The wedge issues, though, the specific issues, you're right. Death penalty crime, guns. That's a big one. Like, oh, he's going to come and take your guns, and obviously burning of the flag. Those are issues that aren't as bread and butter as like economic issues. They're more like dividing. They became a newer phenomena. I know you kids are kind of young, but I mean, I'm not that old, but it wasn't really around. No one was talking about burning the flag and the death penalty. And then they became very, very prominent because of Lee Atwater. And I think to this day, immigration, all this stuff is very, very important wedge issues. That's why I kind of wanted to bring it up. Oh, I saw something in the chat. Let's take a look. Linear regression analysis about, yes, same thing. Good question, Paige.
I have a question about Secrets of the Tribe.
Go ahead, man.
Specifically, if I want to do my 2 minutes, roughly, give or take, video presentation on Secrets of the Tribe, I can still do that, right? The due date for that one has not passed?
Yeah, no, I don't know. I'm very flexible about that stuff. That is the presentations. I even said you could do January 6th. So, that's it's 5 points. So if you haven't done it, I'm fine, whichever one you want to do. So yeah, definitely do it. That's actually on the quiz. Let me take a look. Yeah, I hit everything. Regression analysis, ice cream, kissing statue of Pancho Villa, regression analysis, Arab Spring, Secrets of the Tribe. Secrets of the Tribe comes up quite a bit. Don't forget, the independent variables of the Secrets of the Tribe, women and meat, but you people said that. Experiment control groups, the Titanic, ethnography, generally speaking, and then ethnography applied to Secrets of the Tribe, obviously. Titanic comes up twice. That's interesting. Quiet rage, just hypothesis testing, but like I talked about, applied to Secrets of the Tribe. And then, yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene, the two variables, the independent is the product, the dependent variable is hair color. Paul Wellstone, very important for discourse analysis, interpretive methods, who refused. I love that video. Shows them so Minnesota and the farm and all this stuff. That family is family, no makeup or anything, really plain, but to get to the people. Martha McSally, my argument, you do not have to agree with me, but it's still interpretive methods. OJ Simpson, Titanic, political ads.
Sir,
They're the
what
independent
was-
variable. I'm sorry?
Pardon me, sir.
Oh, no, that's okay. Wedge issue.
Justice in the Grave. I don't remember us discussing that
Yeah.
directly.
Did you people, I thought I should put it on there because did you read the abstract for that, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, is it on there?
Justice in the Grave. Oh, that
I
was
did,
the
yes.
Uganda, Northern.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
put it
yeah.
on there. That represents what method?
Okay. Oh, that's ethnography.
It
Right.
can either be ethnography or grounded theory.
It could be grounded
I would
theory.
say.
You're right. I won't put both of those on as answers. I'll just make sure ethnography because I don't want to get too deep into it. She's over at West Campus. She does good work. So I said, oh, I'm going to use her work. It's kind of interesting going to Uganda and doing that type of research. Now, remember, as I talked about in the other video before, you can just read the abstracts of some of these.
Yep.
And you'll be able to get by. Because right there, you know a good point, okay, this is, ethnography. Right when you see like Uganda and kind of feet on the ground, that's ethnography. Really good field work there, in my opinion. What else? Anything? I mean, I hit all of the stuff, so I'll put that on there too. So that'll be 29 questions. Wow, 29 points.
On the ground lectures is listed here. Is that relating to ethnography in that case?
That is just like the lectures, when I say on the ground lectures, like more what I did, like in different places. So there's no question what is an on the ground lecture, but yeah, that's more ethnography. That's a good point on that. You would be right. Like I'm in different places. If you've taken me before, I go all over. In this case, I was just in California. You people saw the California one. With the kissing statue. Who thought something would be interesting in San Diego? I'm kidding. But very expensive San Diego. But if you go to San Francisco, that what's it called? Pancho Villa is very cheap. Very good. It's good to find cheap things in San Francisco. Any other questions now? If it's not on the final exam, any quick questions on something else?
I have one.
All right, Matt.
Okay, so if you end up finishing the final exam, all the discussion boards, your second 2-minute presentation, the extra credit, the law discussion, or if that's extra credit, I don't really know. But if you end up finishing that, so if you end up finishing everything but the final paper, and you have enough points that even if you don't turn in the final paper, you still
can
have
get
like
the
over
A+.
100.
Yeah, that's possible too. Because if you've
Wait,
been doing really
sorry.
well.
Like I was gonna say, if you end up in a scenario like that, can you just choose to not do the final paper?
Yeah, 100%. Because I'm seeing the points. Don't get cocky.
Oh.
You still got 30 points on this.
I know.
Yeah, you don't have to. I get that a lot now. Okay, I'll go over that discourse analysis in a second. I get that a lot. So yeah, you don't have to do it. As long as you hit that 100, you get the A+. Yeah.
All right.
I know it's a good gig. It motivates
that's
people.
honestly not the answer I was expecting.
No, I mean it goes by a point system, but most people do need to do it. They falter somewhere behind. And let me get to page on this discourse analysis and where it exactly is. The exact discourse analysis I ask about is in the Rittenhouse. If you really watch the lecture where I talk about that case and watch that video, it's so amazing how words matter in research. So you look at discourse. The fact that the judge said to the prosecutors, you cannot call the people who were killed or hurt by Kyle Rittenhouse victims was a big win for Kyle Rittenhouse. And the fact that they could say, that is the defense, these arsons, when they weren't yet what would it be, tried and found guilty, right, proven guilty in a court of law as arsons, that's where people started thinking that the judge was biased in the case. But think about it, it's only discourse. So we can debate that later. That it's discourse. And the same thing goes for Wellstone, but I ask it more interpretive methods. The fact that Wellstone, when he's running, says, I am a teacher, when he was actually a professor, why would he use teacher over professor? Because people, professors have a bad reputation with a lot of people being liberal, Ivy Towers. I've been out, I have little kids, you might hear them in the background, their hair. And, parents will say, oh, so you're that liberal professor brainwashing my kid at ASU and stuff, so, he wanted to stay away from that is Wellstone from that word as, I actually have a word, professor over teacher. Matt or anyone else who's interested in my in-class political science course, it's called political science. I actually do a debate. Was Rittenhouse guilty or not guilty? And they stand up and debate. It's really good. A lot of people say he's not guilty by the law, even though he might have been a jerk. But we can't debate that now because I don't want to get too like because I got kids here and stuff. But I should do it in one of the other classes. Any other questions about the final exam or final paper? Or life, liberty, and happiness. I can't give you those, but I can
Not
give you-
final exam per se, sir, but this week with the R&R studio, a lot of these lectures, I'll be honest, some of them just flew over my head. I was scraping by with the I picked penguins.
Oh,
And then
did you
I don't
watch
know if
that
it's
one? You
gonna
didn't have to
because-
watch that one though. You can just choose
Yeah.
any one and just
Yeah,
talk about.
I chose penguins. I wrote about penguins, but I mean,
Yeah.
just watching that one, I was just like, oh man, a lot of this stuff is going right over my
The
head.
goal here is not to get deep. I am not going to ask you deep questions about penguins or anything. In fact, that was one of the ones you didn't really have to do. The ones you'll have to really watch, and I know it does get deep into it, but all you got to know is exactly what that question was, what she just asked. What is regression analysis and how is it applied? So when you look at, the hypothesis testing and regression analysis with ice cream. All you really have to know there is what's the purpose of this? It's to see if there's a relationship between regression, let's just say temperature and consumption of ice cream. Why? Well, if you have an ice cream place in Arizona and it gets to be over 100 degrees, will people be buying more ice cream? And then you've got price. That's another important variable, independent variable causal. If you raise the price, boom, 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 will it go down the consumption? I know it gets a little difficult and I leave it at the end so people might be freaking out. But you get a lot of points on that because there's actually another quiz that deals with that stuff as well. That opens Friday as well.
That helps. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, there's no penguin or Titanic. You need to know the answers to that. Independent variable, gender, and class. Dependent variable, that is the result. Will you survive or not?
If you ask me about flipper length, I got you.
All right, sorry. That was one of the ones. Yeah, you saw the flipper, right? Does a species or yeah. What
Yeah.
other questions do we have? I'm not going to ask about Kyle Rittenhouse. Go ahead.
I have a question. Okay, so I'm still working out the kinks on my final paper, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to go towards the OJ and the jury and
Good.
the House. Do
Do you want to study law?
Yes. Yeah.
See, that's a good, if you want to study law, I mean, do whatever you want. I don't care what anyone does because this is your life, your choice. But if you want to study law, doing something with law can be useful because you can, put in your cover letter. If you ask me for a recommendation, I could say, oh, this person likes law so much, they wrote a paper, blah, blah, blah. It can be useful in that way. So sorry, go ahead, Christina.
Oh, yeah, I agree. That when you said about the paper for law school, I thought this is perfect. But I was wondering if I don't have enough meat to it, is there another case that I can compare it to that you suggest?
Oh yeah, you could say like, why is OJ not guilty? Why was say Judy Arias guilty? That's an interesting comparative case study. I like to talk about a similar case. Who's the one? Casey Anthony, who we don't know killed her daughter. Sad case, but it is an interesting case. Why she was found not guilty, and why Jodi Arias is guilty. Another case, the Amanda Knox, I find interesting because you see those dueling narratives. Like in Italy, she's like, by the Italian, she's guilty, but here, not guilty. Interesting, is it because she's, gringa and North American and they get tired of all these, people going over there. So they, I don't know.
Oh,
It's an interesting double narrative on that one. And then there are cases, I'm not a lawyer, that you might be interested in that I didn't mention.
Yeah, I did find that case about the Italian police really interesting because I read about the serial killer over there that was in the 70s that were killing couples, and
Oh
they
my
mentioned
God.
her at the end, and they were cops who wrote or detectives that wrote the book, and they were saying how it's all corrupted over there, and they were just wanting to close the case. So it's just really interesting to follow that too.
Yeah, every time I send a student off to study abroad, I say, watch the Amanda Queen.
Yeah.
Watch yourself out there. Because a lot of countries do have a backlash against foreigners going there and, like spring break and stuff. And we're gonna, get this.
Absolutely.
A long, long time ago, before you people were born, there was a guy that was flogged in Singapore, and it was so popular.
Oh, for chewing gum? Is that the gum
yeah,
chewer
he
guy?
threw the gum on
Yeah.
the- yeah, gotta watch out for that. um,
I
how did
think
you
there's a
people know
difference
that?
between
You weren't even
floggings and
born.
lashings, but they gave him lashings.
Oh my God, you people weren't even born when that happened. I was a little kid. I remember it was, I mean, everyone was talking about it. It was kind of, but people liked it. They're like, yeah, those stupid spring breakers. But this guy just threw gum on the ground.
What year
Well,
was that? What year was
I
that?
forget. That must have been 80 or 90s.
Oh, I was born. I was 81.
Any other questions on all this stuff? Matt, you're dying for a question.
No, I'm not. I
Any-
just like to argue.
I know. I was gonna bring up that you should take if you ever get in class. Well, I do the debates standing up in front of the class. They get kind of
Oh, that's
Heads.
fun. That's right up my alley. Which class is it?
all of them. Like if you take my national security next semester, they have debates. But here we do them on YouTube, or you just upload them. Whereas in the actual class, people stand up in front of the class. I've had to stand up and say, "Okay, break it. Keep it down." No one's ever used fist, but a few times they've gotten into pretty tough debates. One, Hiroshima, Nagasaki is a tough one. The Wall is another one.
Which wall?
I say, should countries or should not countries use wall to stop immigration, something like that. Like in U.S.
I
foreign
did my
policy,
debate on that.
did you? Yeah. all right. That's good. So if there's nothing else, is there anything else final? No, quiet range is good. That's an experiment, independent variable. Just remember is the roles and then the different attributes, is you're either a guard or a prisoner, and then the dependent variable is the behavior. So what he's trying to do, if you notice at the end too, he's like, and I married this woman. That was a student. Is that and there's evidence that he kind of was involved in the case too much. That is very, very important, the independent dependent variable for that.
So
case.
I have a question actually about the Stanford prison experiment. I don't know if you've read my discussion post on this yet, but am I the only one who thinks that for the purpose of measuring whether or not guards or people who are given small amounts of authority will become more cruel if commanded to do so by the power over them, or for the purpose of measuring whether or not US/Western style prisons actually do cause people to develop PTSD. Am I the only one who thinks that even if it was extremely unethical and that he shouldn't have been doing it just for the sake of maintaining the integrity of the experiment, that when you actually think about how his meddling affected the results, he didn't actually corrupt what the study was trying to measure? Because if anything, him like being unethical and kind of depraved and encouraging the guards to be more cruel than they otherwise would have been, that made it more like a real prison.
Yeah, a lot of people have. I mean, because a lot of people are sympathetic. That the whole goal of that was after Nazi Germany and with the 1960s trying to do prison reform. Our people, even if they're good people, like in a horrible situation, Nazi, just following orders, and that was one thing. But also, you're right. There's been a movement in this country, and it's growing, that the U.S. prison system is just making, taking smaller criminals, like less, in turning them into hard criminals. They basically go to prison and come out worse. So you're 100% right. There's been a few people that have brought that up, that regardless of him intervening, in fact, him intervening might really replicate the real prison.
It
The
especially though
problem is
makes
the
it more
trauma
valid.
of these kids.
Yeah.
It's not, it's like I always say a joke. I want to do an experiment on waterboarding. It's like you can't really do that because people can really be traumatized if you did this waterboarding ASU experiment.
As an online student, I support your experiment on campus students.
Oh, that's good. I think you're very ethical, very caring. Okay, anything else? It was thank you so much. And if you do hit me up for a letter of rec, make sure you remind me. Oh, I was in the well, this group is small, so I'll remember you people. But I was in the Zoom meetings. And I'm not saying that for the people who are watching now who will not be here, who are not here, that they won't get a good letter of rec, but it is something to add into the letter of recommendation, because it is difficult being online students and getting to know a professor to write. And that's, I'll end here, a professional development piece of advice. Like Christina just said, you know, she's going to law school and others. If you're only online, like Noah just said, you know, really make sure that professor knows you. Make a certain laundry list and make sure you get the best letter of recommendation possible, because, you know, it is more difficult to get to know students in the online venue than it is in the non-online. So it's good that you came out, or at least, you know, and if you talk to other professors, make sure they don't write a generic letter of recommendation. Any other questions?
I have a random question.
Yes.
I'm taking your national security.
See, she's gonna do the debate.
Yeah. Summer. So I was just wondering, is it kind of set up similar to this course where you have the lectures and?
Yeah, it's the same thing, the modules. In that case, instead of the presentations, you have a debate, and then you have to debate someone else. So like you can do a debate on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Oh, I do new debates because they're kind of cool, about like, should we protect China? Should we protect Taiwan if China intervenes?
Yes.
And is it correct that the president gave the okay for some of our weapons to be fired into Russia?
Oh.
And I'm going to add another one. Should Zelensky and Ukraine accept the terms of the ceasefire that Putin put? See, I don't know. That's going to be, see, that's the debates. Each one, you choose one, and then you can debate someone else on any other one. So yeah, but it's very similar to this. Quizzes. It's a little more interactive because of the nature of the course.
Okay, awesome. Thanks.
All right.
Wait, I just have one more question. I
Yeah,
promise this is the last thing.
Don't worry.
So-
You paid for this. Well, someone paid.
After having watched Secrets of the Tribe, the question that I have is, why does it seem like everybody who was involved with the study of the Yanomami are just like extremely questionable, sketchy people?
That's
Because
one
then
of the
you start
things
out
of
with
the
Chen
triple-
Yan and you think, oh,
Right.
he's probably the best one here, but then you learn about his like crazy, weird involvement with the Atomic Energy Commission and
Yeah.
the CDC and his weird experimenting on virgin populations
yeah,
to see what.
if you really watch that whole thing, some of you have, like, I talk to people like, I watched the whole thing. I have
did.
to cut it off because it gets a little too, it's just disturbing. You know, when he starts doing, you know, now drawing blood from them and all this stuff. We actually
So
did that.
Why?
ASU with some-
Why is everybody who went down there a piece of garbage?
I
I was going to
don't
say
know.
another word.
I
there,
don't
but
know, but I've done field work, and I agree with you. I've always been very ethical and made sure of it because I've seen these and I don't want to be like that. Thanks so much for the kind words about the national security. So if that's it, I got to get going. I want to take my kid to soccer, and thanks for waiting for the people who did wait. I'm sorry, I just got back and I'm like, oh man, I got to get there. And then someone wrote, okay, I'll talk to you people later. Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take
Thank you,
care.
sir.
Bye.